There are a lot of Lord of the Rings videos out there that present mind-bending questions and scenarios like, what if Sauron had gotten the ring? Are orcs and goblins the same thing? And so on. But why stop there? Here are my top 10 intriguing and far-fetched Lord of the Rings theories. Let's begin. Number 1. Gollum is really Isildur. Isildur's dying mysteriously in the forest after keeping the ring doesn't really fit with the usual fate of a ring bearer. It seems more like a plot device to get rid of him. So what if he survived his wounds and gradually became Gollum, forgetting his own name and living a simple life in the vicinity of the river where the ring was lost? The first of many times he misplaced it. Without the ring, he becomes a relatively pleasant simpleton, although he is inexplicably drawn to fishing. When the ring is found by Deagol, Gollum's memory comes back and he kills him for it. Number 2. The White Tree of Gondor is Treebeard's lost wife. Treebeard laments the passing of the entwives, his own wife especially. Since forests communicate with each other underground and through animals, the entwives can't be anywhere connected to the ground of Middle-earth. But the White Tree came from the island of Númenor and stands isolated at the top of Minas Tirith, which is the reason it has already died from sadness before Lord of the Rings begins. Number 3. When Gandalf recruits Frodo, he is really Saruman in disguise. When I first read Lord of the Rings, I remember Gandalf and Saruman being almost identical, as if he was Gandalf's evil twin. A glimpse of this has survived in the moment where Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee's voices are merged so you don't know which one is going to appear. Gandalf doesn't know Bilbo's ring is the Ring of Power. Saruman, on the other hand, is obsessed with it. So when Gandalf comes to Frodo with all this knowledge about the ring, it's not the same guy. The real Gandalf is imprisoned in Orthanc, so Saruman can convince the ring bearer to go on a quest that will deliver the ring to Sauron. Number 4. Bilbo is a descendant of Gollum. This one's actually not that far-fetched, since Gollum was once a hobbit. When Bilbo and Gollum meet, it seems unlikely that a nameless creature would have a gold ring unless he got it from someone he ate. It seems more likely that the ring was passed down to Bilbo through generations of hobbits going back to their ancestors the Stoors, and that Gollum recognized the ring and stole it from him. It's the ring's power of invisibility that makes Bilbo an expert burglar and why Gandalf chose him. Once the ring passes to Gollum, it starts making its way back to Sauron, and Bilbo goes back to his normal life. Number 5. Gandalf and Saruman are the same person. So here's how this works. Gandalf is frequently disappearing where he has to cross great distances on Shadowfax so he can go back to being Saruman. As Gandalf, he convinces Frodo to go on a quest and then disappears so that as Saruman, he can send the Black Riders to capture the hobbits and bring the ring to him. When Frodo makes it to Rivendell instead, he goes back to being Gandalf so he can lead the Fellowship into a trap personally. In the Misty Mountains, he convinces them to turn back and go through the mines of Moria. But things hit a snag when Gandalf dies and Saruman has to take his place as Gandalf the White. No, wait a minute. He fakes his own death by making a deal with the Balrog who works for Saruman. Then, after bewitching King Theoden, he pretends to restore him again. Later at Minas Tirith, the Witch King confronts Gandalf to find out he's really Saruman and changes his mind. Number 6. Aragorn is Arathorn. He changed his name to protect his identity and explain why he looks about 30 when he is actually in his 80s, just like actor Alan Hale. Remember that Aragorn was adopted by Elrond when his father was killed by the Witch King, destroying their kingdom, making him a marked man. So it was actually Arathorn who was taken to Rivendell to conceal his identity. Number 7. The dead men of Dunharrow are the guys who just died at Helm's Deep. Don't you think it's ironic that Aragorn just left a battle where hundreds of men died and coincidentally happens to lead his men down a passage through the mountains from Helm's Deep with all these ghosts following him? It's the guys who just died in the previous chapter. They failed Aragorn after swearing an oath to him and are condemned to a bodiless existence for 3 whole days, until they are able to vindicate themselves by winning the day. Number 8. Gimli is a female dwarf. No, wait. The dwarves are actually humans who were made short by Helm Hammerhand. Helm was a king of Rohan who had a conniving, suspicious advisor who was a lot like Grima Wormtongue. When he discovered a plot to overthrow him, Helm Hammerhand assembled his cronies who were in on it, made them line up in front of him, and brought down his fist on each of their heads, making them short, stubby guys who waddle from side to side like Ram Man, who in their disgrace went to live in the mountains where there are no women. This is why whenever a Rohanian meets a dwarf, he suspects trickery because his head isn't that far from the ground. Number 9. There are no male elves. When Gimli says that he's never seen a dwarf woman, Legolas, not to be outdone, states that he's never seen an elf man, explaining that they're so alike in voice and appearance, they're often mistaken for elf women, to which Aragorn replies, "It must be the fact that they can't grow any body hair." Number 10. Galadriel and Sauron are divorced. This explains why the whole land of Middle-earth has been split apart over the ownership of a gold band, and why Galadriel becomes enraged at the very sight of the ring or Sauron himself. He was wearing it when he lost it in battle, and she hasn't forgiven him since then. If she had taken the ring, it would have instantly made her his wife. So let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, you know what? Why stop at 10 when we can just keep going? Number 11. Deagol is the Balrog. The centuries have made Smeagol into a creature of darkness because of the ring. Why not his brother as well? One who is addicted to the ring and one who is deprived of it. The ring prolongs the life of all its owners. So while Gollum is eventually shunned by his own people and wanders north into the Misty Mountains, Deagol also wanders, becoming a creature of shadow, eventually growing to fit the huge caverns beneath Moria with a burning desire to get the ring back. But instead of Smeagol, it's the Fellowship he encounters when he gets his chance. Number 12. The Battle of Erebor is backwards. It was the dwarves who stole the gold and the Lonely Mountain from Smaug. Smaug is an eternal dragon who lived in the Lonely Mountain centuries before the dwarves settled there. He was actually taking it back when he had his revenge. But let's not stop there. Let's say the dwarves stole the mountain and the gold from him until one day Gandalf happens to meet Smaug at the Prancing Pony and makes a suggestion. Gandalf brings Smaug to the house of Bilbo Baggins, an expert burglar who can help the dragon take back his mountain from the dwarves. Number 13. The entwives were all smoked. Number 14. Aragorn has no family. So if he had died, that would make Denethor the rightful king of Gondor. Unless Aragorn adopted a son like Frodo. So let's say Aragorn is killed in battle by the wargs, and Denethor dies as he normally does, leaving Boromir heir to the throne except for Frodo. So Boromir hunts down Frodo in the forest to take the throne of Gondor from him. But what if they all live and Aragorn and Boromir end up riding through the gates of Minas Tirith together? Denethor would probably have Aragorn killed on the spot, making himself king. The trouble is, the stewards of Gondor have always been against the idea of being ruled by a king for generations. So now that his father is king, Boromir has to assassinate him to avenge the murder of his friend and make sure the line of kingship ends with his father. Wait a minute. Number 16. If Aragorn and Éowyn had an affair, their child would be called Arwen. So let's say this happens when Aragorn and Éowyn are together at Edoras. After Aragorn becomes king and the real Arwen gives up her immortality to be his wife, Éowyn shows up with their child, who is also named Arwen. Éowyn is now Queen of Rohan, and their child is heir to the throne of Gondor as well, not the baby Arwen is carrying. But that's not the biggest problem. Arwen is an elvish princess, but elves have left Middle-earth, so when she leaves Aragorn, nobody knows her. People are saying, Arwen is the king's love child. So by the time she reaches the boat to sail to the west, they're like, oh, that's the name of the king's illegitimate daughter. You know, when Aragorn dies, you could be Queen of Gondor. What other unlikely matches can we make? Let's say Galadriel and Bombur. Just as Gimli has a crush on Galadriel, who gave him 3 of her hairs, let's say his uncle Bombur joined the Fellowship instead. When Galadriel grants him a wish, Bombur says he wants to spend the night with her on account that her husband Celeborn is a tree. Galadriel has a secret crush on really fat guys with beards that meet in the middle. So, after spending the night together, they have a child named Bombadil. Bombadil is 1 part elf and 2 parts dwarf, so he goes off to live by himself in the old forest, living a simple life until Frodo and the hobbits need his help. So what about Saruman and Shelob? Saruman is a spy for Sauron, so when he tries to sneak into Mordor through the pass of Cirith Ungol, he runs into the giant spider Shelob, who catches the shifty wizard helpless and has her way with him, because he had it coming. 8 days later, Shelob gives birth to a half-spider, half-wizard called She-Man, Princess of Power.